Hey everyone, welcome to the Voice of San Diego podcast. I'm Jesse Marks, Associate Editor here, and I'm with Kinsee Morlan, who covers arts and culture.
Hello there.
Hey, so we've been off for, Kinsee, I think about a week or two. We've been reporting on other things, but we've got an interesting show today in any case about the legal industry. Specifically, we're going to talk to Sumeet Harish, an entrepreneur and digital marketing dude.
Right. So we don't spend too much time in the digital marketing world, thankfully.
Nope.
Although, you know, it's interesting because marketing marijuana is its own beast. But Sumeet is with a startup called the Culinary Cannaseur Club.
Got it. Nailed it.
And they are prepping to host high-end dinners for marijuana professionals, cannabis entrepreneurs and businesses, and kind of connect the two and help the budding industry move forward.
Yeah, let's hope he gives us a window into that world. That should be interesting. But first, I wanted to note that since we last recorded, actually, Rocky Goyle, a couple weeks ago, he came on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who founded the Apothecary dispensaries. One of those actually sold to a gigantic company. I think we might want to grab
cashed
him.
out.
Well, he still has another one,
Okay,
to my knowledge.
So he only half sold out.
I think he did the smart thing, right?
Sure.
And as somebody who's a businessman, that makes sense, right?
Sure.
But okay, so first let's catch up on a couple of interesting things that we caught in the news, and then I have a little bit of reporting to do myself. Let's start at the federal level. So California Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's running for a fifth term, she says that she's open to considering federal protections for state legalized marijuana markets, which is a little surprising, right? Because Feinstein's never really been a fan, at least of the adult use side of marijuana. And in fact, she's advanced the argument that marijuana can be a gateway drug. But she told McClatchy News Service that her views have changed after meeting with constituents, particularly those who have young children who've benefited from medicinal cannabis.
Interesting. So are you buying that? Is that really what inspired the change of course for her?
Well, the cynics that we are at Kinsee, I think this news should be viewed in light of the 2018 election. But,
oh, yeah, that.
But I think in Feinstein's defense, she has said for years that she understands there could be some medical benefits to the plant. So we will extend her that courtesy. Kevin De Leon, who is probably her main challenger, right, in this race, he doesn't appear to have very strong feelings one way or the other. At least he hasn't expressed them yet. So one could imagine him using this issue as a wedge during a debate, right? You use it to portray Feinstein as being out of touch. So I think she got out ahead of this, and I think that was a smart move.
Okay. All right. Fascinating. So here's another quick little newsy tidbit for you. It's from the Associated Press. Our sunny state had been hoping and expecting to get about $175 million from cultivation and other taxes by the end of June, but now estimates are they suggest a number way lower than that. The Legislative Analyst Office says the state only collected $34 million, which big gap there. And that was in the first 3 months of the year. So that's about half of what was expected. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think's up with that?
Well, I did read that report, and it suggested two things: that there was a bumpy regulatory rollout, which is obviously true, and it also mentioned the fact that a lot of areas in the state have not gone ahead and agreed to regulate cannabis businesses, which is cut into the potential tax revenue. And I don't doubt that both of those things are true, right? I mean, we've been screaming about them for months now, but I also think we need to consider the fact that taxes are pretty ridiculously high on cannabis products, and there's also legislation up in Sacramento in the works which could potentially lower those taxes, which I think is a good idea, but I think there's going to be a big amount of pushback to that. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've talked to a lot of longtime stoner friends of mine who are like, nope, never been to a dispensary. Probably will never go. Like they've, marijuana is not new to them, and they're not going to just change their buying habits overnight. So there's a lot of that going on.
And some states, we should note, have actually already lowered their taxing structures within their legal markets.
Did Colorado do that?
That is a good question. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Oregon did, though.
Yeah, I have been to a dispensary in Colorado and was shocked at the difference in pricing between, my mom has a medical card, so the difference between medical prices and recreational, I was like, whoa, it's, $50 more for certain products.
Even in California too, right? It's a lower taxing structure, but still people I've heard complain about it being too high. So
yeah.
But I have a little bit of reporting I wanted to extend here.
Look at you.
It's not much. But so I was thinking the other day, I was actually in a smoke shop, right? And I saw that the shop was selling CBD products behind the counter. And it sort of reminded me that CBD is this recurring motif on our show. We're like perpetually confused by what this is.
Everyone is confused.
Yeah, and certainly we're not alone. And so I was curious, and I started asking the guy behind the counter, like, can you actually sell this? Do you not need a license for this? And he told me he did not, and I doubted him, so I decided to do a little bit of reporting myself. So I checked with a couple of different government agencies at the state and the local level, and also a cannabis lawyer who I know. And here's what I found. Certain CBD products require a license and others don't. Right?
Why is that?
So if the product is derived from marijuana, then you need a license from the Bureau of Cannabis Control.
Got it.
And a dispensary permit. But if the CBD product is derived from industrial hemp, then the regulatory question falls to the California Department of Food and Agriculture, which punts the question to local jurisdictions. Right?
Interesting. A lot of people, who are new to marijuana don't know that marijuana and hemp are, the differences between the two.
So my immediate reaction when I heard this was that's absurd, that's unnecessarily confusing, but you're right. Marijuana and hemp, although they come from the same species, are two pretty totally different things. So I think regulators may have actually made the smart decision in this case.
Sure.
But the problem is you have CBD products which ostensibly do the same thing, but they just derive from a different form of the plant. So you have different regulators involved, and one needs a license and one doesn't, and that is confusing.
Well, also confusing from the consumer standpoint, like, is one better than the other? Is CBD from hemp better than CBD from marijuana? What are the differences, if any? Neither of them necessarily have THC in them. Although when you go to a dispensary and you want to buy CBD at an actual legal dispensary, a lot of the tinctures do include THC. So you can get tinctures that have 1 to, the ratios are different, right? So you can do a 50-50. So it's 50 CBD, 50 THC. So obviously your guy in North Park is not allowed to sell those.
Well, the products that he was selling actually derive from hemp.
Right.
So I should apologize to him for doubting him. He clearly
He
did
was
his
right.
homework. Or he just didn't care and was just selling it anyways. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just noticed we have a smoke shop kind of on the main thoroughfare in Lemon Grove, and they just put up their CBD oil here sign. So this is a thing that's happening, and smoke shops are, capitalizing on this emerging market.
Do you know if those are derived from marijuana or hemp? Did you look?
Jesse, I am... I will look just for you, and then in the next podcast, I'll give you an update. Okay.
Cool. Sounds good. And I should note that the city treasurer is actually in charge of the local jurisdiction of CBD products that derive from hemp, and they told me that the city doesn't have any special zoning use restrictions regarding the sales of those products, and they also said that merchants would be subject to like whatever normal regulations are in place for retail shops. So nothing additional that those shop owners need to keep in mind.
All right, so there's no veto today, sadly, but we do have the interview coming up in the second half of the show. Lots of interesting legality and policy things and business trends we talk about, so stick around. We'll be back. All right, we're back. We're joined in the great Voice of San Diego podcast studio by Sumeet Harish. He is one of the people behind a new cannabis startup called the Culinary Cannaseur Club. I like the pun. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
We're all about really annoying and bad pop puns, so I'm glad that you guys are participating in that.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over here today.
And so just tell us quickly about yourself and your background. What brought you into the world of cannabis?
Absolutely. Great question. So growing up, I've always been, I'm actually Hindu. So, my mom used to have a lot of plants in our house, we grew up with a lot of holistic stuff. So, part of my life has always been of optimizing myself, trying to understand myself. And when I was 25, it was my first time that I even tried marijuana for the first time. And my background a little bit is I studied in Boston University. I was an engineer. And
I hear you're Boston when you say Boston.
Boston, right? Yeah.
Nice.
I'm originally from New York, but
Okay.
grew up in Long Island. So there you got that coffee.
Okay.
So,
Banner.
but being an engineer, being in society, there's a lot of pressures, a lot of different energy out there. So I always really felt the plant medicine, plant life, holistic stuff was always my thing. Marijuana not being any exception, just to another plant growing on planet Earth. So after experiencing that at 25, to be quite honest with you, I had this epitome of just all this stress just melting away, like just getting out of a pool and the water's just dripping down your bathing suit. That's kind of how it felt. And life was it opened up a new window, right? So I'm like, there's something about this thing, right? Just keeping all the judgment away, that there's something about this thing, looking at it from a very just, neutral perspective. That kind of started my journey, my interest in the plant, which a lot of people that I speak to that I kind of meet in the journey, they always kind of had an experience. And I think a lot of people in the culture kind of meet with each other and they just have this vibe, this great energy that kind of, happens. And it all happens when you kind of come together. So, for me, my background is I'm in digital media. I love telling people's brand story online, kind of leading them to whatever the situation may be. And, coming to San Diego was inevitable, having lived in New York, gone to school in Boston. I've worked in Beijing for several years. And then I came back to the United States and I said, where do I want to go? So marketing actually happens right here in our backyard in San Diego. It's one of the biggest cities.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I mean,
I did not know that.
We're like a test market for when McDonald's rolls out things. We're always a test market because there's a lot of marketing experts here.
So many in our backyard in La Jolla. So this is where the mecca is for all of the conferences. Right here at the Marriott Marquis, Traffic and Conversion Summit happens here. So there's just a lot of stuff happening here in digital marketing. And inevitable, just being in San Diego, California, you can, now participate in this plant. And there's also Bastyr University here, which is the Harvard of homeopathic medicine right here in Mira Mesa. So it just was a good cultivation ground for my next step in my, because I want to be more about this culture, more about the plant life, more about marketing and telling and educating people, right? I think education leads to people experiencing new experiences.
Were you involved with cannabis before Proposition 64 in San Diego?
No, I wasn't.
No, okay.
Yeah.
And what year did you move here, just so we're clear?
I moved here in 2014.
Okay.
But marketing cannabis-related things is kind of tricky in the digital world because
Absolutely.
Facebook will, it happens to me, I do some of our digital marketing.
Okay.
And Facebook will ban an ad because it's got a marijuana plant in it. Or, there's still just because it's legal in California, it's not legal in Facebook world. It's really
absolutely. It's a troublesome thing for a lot of my clients, a lot of my friends. So, being a media agency and working with this industry as a media person, I had to figure out, how can we tap into this market? And a lot of the things, it really comes back down to building your own database, right? It goes back down to building your own email list and putting out great content. Content is king. So when you put it out on your own properties, you can tap into databases out there of millions of cannabis, users or cannabis enthusiasts, but you would have to go to a network, right? So you tap into different networks that allow you to advertise and do CPM and CPC marketing. So you could still reach your consumer. When it comes to Facebook, you have to obviously not be selling or distributing anything illegal. But I always tell people, never forget about your story, about the reason. Because it's not about the product. Never sell the product. Always sell the story. And when you're in Facebook's garden, talk about it from a position where then once they get to your property, then you're good.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, so that's fascinating. How do you get the data to begin with? How do you know who to target within that world? Can you break that down for us?
Within Facebook?
Within the cannabis world, if you're going to do that type of digital marketing and theoretically you're throwing advertising or you're trying to reach people who are cannabis users, how do you find those people?
Hashtag stoners, bro.
Right.
You've never surfed that hashtag on Instagram?
Absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, the hashtags are the most amazing thing because it separates the data and segments them. But to look at ad networks out there, they have humongous databases that you could tap into. So these are people, they have obviously information about, what their age group is, male, female, income stuff, just like Facebook has. It's just that now you're legally allowed to go to this ad network. There's a couple of them out there.
Weed-friendly ad networks?
Very weed. That's
Sweet.
all they do.
Okay.
So, so if you have to think outside the box, it's not just about Facebook and Google. I would look at them visually as a pool in the ocean of traffic that's out there. They're just pools. They're just big pools, but they're not the biggest of the ocean, right? Ocean's the ocean. So there's an ocean of traffic, and you just got to just find that, the scientist. So I'm that scientist that looks for where the data is, how can we launch your campaign, and how can we get you the right people and say what you want.
Okay, so when this episode drops, feel free to work your weed marketing magic, and we'll watch the numbers pour in, right? Right, Jesse? No pressure. So your new venture one of your new ventures is an organization that hosts high-end cannabis dinner events in San Diego. But it's not just a private cannabis dinner club, right? It's like sort of half dinner club, half business networking club. Is that right? And you're hoping to both pair weed with food and venture capitalists with cannabis entrepreneurs?
I mean, you put it. It's an interesting meal that you just made there. You put all the ingredients on the plate, but you do the ice cream on the spaghetti. And so let's separate the ice cream from the spaghetti for a second. So yeah, absolutely. This is a venture from my partner Tom Nguyen. Hope I didn't butcher his last name. I butcher his last name all the time. So this is his spearheaded project, and a lot of our friends in our network. We have a wonderful lawyer at the Weed Initiate. His name is James Scher, and that's led with also his partner Manny Hernandez. And so their concept is helping people get compliant, right? So they were our friends for a very long time, really good people of mine, and very good friends with Tom. And so Tom found, the fact that, James was a lawyer and that's their whole concept was helping marijuana companies get compliant and do it the right way. A lot of people are not doing it the right way. And so that was the first pebble. And we said, okay, so now we have this legal things. Whatever we want to do it 100% legal. And from there, Tom he works in the marijuana industry prior. So he has a lot of experience of understanding what these businesses are looking for, where are they navigating to in the waters today, and just what's going on.
In the delivery world? Is that what
he was in the delivery world prior, but he's also now in the manufacturing world.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. And also this concept kind of came about when we were just sitting around. And one of the things that, we always say is your network is your net worth. Right? As it was one of the
That's
philosophies.
a snappy marketing saying. I like it.
It's true, though.
So, a lot of business, especially within the cannabis industry, happens over kind of like a meal. When I lived in Beijing, it was never business first. It was let's sit down, let's hang out.
Break some bread.
Break some of that bread, eat some of that ice cream, and let's see if we can actually not kill each other first, right? And let's see if we like each other. Let's see if the vibes are right, the energy is right in the room. And so that all happens when you break bread. And so we were thinking of in the entertainment industry, in the finance industry, in the creative industry, like the Soho House in New York, there are these private clubs that cater to people so that they can actually not have to climb the ladder. You can meet someone that's been in the industry for 1 year and someone that's been in the industry for 50 years, right? And then that can happen, right? You could make that relationship and things can happen today. And so it's no different that we felt like there needs to be that kind of a place for people to meet, greet. And there's so many of these places popping up, so it's inevitable that this is the wave that's happening. But we want to have a platform, and because now I'm the marketer on board and I'm thinking all this data and where can we go with this. And so the reality is, at the end of the day, not only can cannabis enthusiasts, cannabis entrepreneurs, business owners, investors meet different people at these events that are about 40 people each event, where we have Michelin-quality food, high, level 2 somms on deck. We
Fancy.
Have entertainment.
Is a level 2 somm a sommelier?
Sommelier, there you go. I don't want to say the whole word because I don't want to butcher the word, but I want to protect that. But the reality of the situation is that not only do we want to cater to the community, but we want to also cater to businesses. So we were talking with a company right now. The company is Ease. Huge company out there.
Yeah.
And basically, they came about to us and they said, we would like to try to educate our own constituents. So what does a company want to do? Any company wants to celebrate their own personal success. They want to celebrate their vendors' success, and they also want to celebrate, most importantly, the people that make them a company, their consumers' success. They want to celebrate their consumers, their top consumers. Everybody does this in any industry out there, right? Credit cards do it all the time. If you're platinum this, your airlines do it, if you're Sky Priority. So we felt like, doing a B2B angle of catering and having these special events, people can feel the brand, taste the brand, like see what the brand is through art. So it's really an experience that we're creating, brand experiences, because that's what's going to happen offline now. Like Amazon bought Whole Foods. The whole concept there is bringing that whole store concept offline and having an experience offline and connecting with a real consumer. Because like today, we're here in the podcast room, we're connecting. We're connecting right now. And so that's really what it's about. Not only just to have food and dinners, but it's not just, it's an experience, the brand experience, where brands could come to us and say, hey, we would like to book you for an experience that we want to have for our customers so they can showcase our product, and then they can have great wine, dinner, and they'll remember that moment, because that moment's a very special moment, when you're experiencing something like that.
Yeah, it seems like a good time. Like, I had a barbecue at my house the other night, and like the contraptions that were going around in terms of marijuana. So I'm like, I'm getting, I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't know what to do with these things. Like, there's so many things that are being invented and innovation that's happening.
There's a lot of confusion. And I think that's our next question. You said Tom had worked in the industry before, but how do you navigate some of the legalities around this? Like, how do you bring people together while still being compliant under the law?
Right. So what we're not doing is we're not saying we're selling weed or we're selling, weed infused food. That is not the concept. Our concept is we are an event platform for people within that industry. So how we do this on a legal standpoint, and I'm not the legal expert here, but from my simple understanding is that what we are charging people for is a year-long membership. We're not charging you for the dinner. We're not charging you for the event. One event is included with your yearly membership. And if you'd like to purchase more access to more events, since you're a member, you will buy a token. Maybe call it the CC Club token.
Okay.
The tokens are on the back of our membership system. It's not just an event, like I said. Then you take it online. I'm sorry. The community is online, so you can meet with people. And if you didn't go to the event, eventually we'll be able to communicate, just like any kind of network, like a LinkedIn for this kind of situation, but more of a private situation. Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to follow up on that for one sec, though. But you're holding these events at a site,
yes,
right? So you would have to check with them, right? Are there any special considerations to take in mind? Like, what if the property owner says, well, you can't do this and can't do this? That's got to be tricky, right?
We definitely check with the property owners. Yeah. We vet everything from A to Z. We have HOA. We have those people that we speak to make sure that, that the property is correct, that we could do what we have to do there. Yeah. Then we also have the legality in the legal contracts. I don't know the wording, but it states that, we are just holding an event, and they don't have to have
And they're
cannabis.
At private homes?
They could be at private mansions. They could be at, different locations that we could rent out, any kind of venue that looks good, that caters to the situation, because it's really more of an exclusive, high-class feel. So we got to find those venues. There's not... And, what we're finding is a lot of people are really open to it at this point, right? Because this is another revenue stream for a lot of businesses out there. And now that it's legal in 2018, people are thinking about it. So there are people that may not want to be participating, and that's okay. But it just takes us a little bit longer to get the place. But the concept is you don't have to have marijuana, and it's very low milligrams. So it's like at less than 5 milligrams, I believe. It's like legally you could put it in there or something. And don't quote me on that, but that's kind of the thing that I've heard in the laws, if it's below a certain amount. But people may not even want that. People just want to maybe take their experiences, like, give me good food, give me good wine, give me good ice cream, give me good entertainment for my brand experience offline. Yeah. It all happens here at the CC Club.
So to be clear, though, there will be weed-infused food, but just low dosage.
If they want that.
Okay. So it just depends on who's hosting the dinner at any given time.
Exactly. A company could come to us and say, hey, we really there's a vape company out there called Smoked Honey that we came across. when you think of smoked honey, you think of just honey, right? So maybe they want foods that are all honey dishes, honey type of ice cream, and they don't even. But it's just like that association with honey now is an association with the brand. I mean, maybe they could try the product because the products might be there to try, of course, at a brand event. But that's a gift maybe to the consumer. But we don't provide that. That's the brand providing all of that stuff.
So there are other cannabis dinner clubs in San Diego that are operating. There's been like little bits of media coverage here and there. I actually invited a few of them to come in and got ignored. And
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, and my theory, and maybe you could talk to me about this, is that a lot of them are not really operating. They're operating in a legal gray zone. Is that right? Because it is sort of like if you're selling customers food that's infused with marijuana, there's some questions there.
Absolutely. I mean, just to open up a bank account, we have a regular American bank account. In order to get that, we had to jump through a lot of loopholes and explaining because, financial firms do not even want to touch you with a 10-foot pole if you're doing anything, come remotely close to it, right?
How did you pull that off? That's fascinating.
I wasn't at that meeting. It was Tom and the lawyer. So this lawyer is really, really good at what he does.
Yeah.
But we read the law as it's stated, and if you're not charging for any of this stuff, then you're not selling any of this stuff. So then you're actually okay. That's kind of the simple concept, the way to understand it.
Just because you're providing the platform.
We're just providing the platform. Yeah.
So talk to us more about the the cannabis entrepreneurial landscape in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I actually met Tom or heard from Tom because he was going to networking events somewhere. And so I know there's a lot of people out there with a lot of interesting ideas. There's a lot of startup businesses. So talk to us about like some of the most exciting ideas you've heard recently, or like, is there a trend that all people in San Diego are starting vape companies, or like what's happening out there?
No, a lot of people are in all different places. I see things, for me being a geek, I see a lot of stuff happening in tech. A lot of delivery services like Ease. It was a company I've been following for a very long time because their model is like DoorDash for delivery service for the marijuana industry, right? DoorDash, they just kind of just go collect your food and they deliver it to your door. So all Ease does is go collects your medicine from any local dispensary and then go ships it to you.
And that's legal?
That's 100% legal. They don't even touch
someone
it.
sent me a coupon. A fellow mom sent me a coupon to Ease like 2 days ago, and I was like, "What is this?"
I thought Ease was working with one of the dispensaries.
They work with so many.
Yeah.
They have a whole network everywhere. Yeah. So like if you order anything from their website, it's just like Uber, like it'll geolocate something. The dispensary, and they'll find the product and they source it, and that's kind of what it is. And it's genius because they don't do anything. They don't own anything. They just have a system. So that's happening. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of vape companies popping out from here and there. I believe there's going to be now that regulation is there, how these people make it. Some people are making it in their house and distributing it. It's not going to be the case. There's going to be like laboratories. Like I know there's a lab I met at this marijuana event me and Tom went to. It was a Sesh Fest or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I've been to one of those.
Yeah. So or something like that. And it was like a beautiful tent. It was like my first event here in San Diego. And so there's a lot of like rosin companies, a lot of shatter companies. People like their, I guess, THC at like 80% out there. People like it strong,
Those things were in a gray area of the law for a while, especially last year. And I went to one, I think it was on New Year's Eve. It was right before, or a few days before that. Okay. And the police showed up.
Oh, no way.
They walked up to the front and they knew that this was probably not legit, but they said, "We're not messing with you guys because
no way.
In a few days we'll just have to throw out all those tickets."
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
It obviously it's legal now, but for a while that was.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the interesting thing. Me being here since 2014, and it wasn't really until 2016, I started to go to these events. I went to Cannabis Cup. I just wanted to see what the culture is, what businesses are out there. So there's a lot of businesses in CBD. That's huge right now.
Oh, yeah.
Humongous.
Yeah.
And,
it's the white wine of the weed world.
It is because of our opioid crisis. So, CBD, and people need to, I think that's a great front for the marijuana industry to really explain that this is a healing plant. We are here to heal, not to, get psychotically high and do dumb stuff and have accidents.
Some people like that.
It's just I think I was watching a video on Facebook that came across my newsfeed yesterday. It was this police officer in Texas, and they like held up a CBD company, and they're like talking about it as if it's poison. I'm like, what propaganda is this? This is kind of crazy. But to kind of get back to your question, I mean, so there's vape companies, there's tech companies, and there's also a lot of product companies like packs. They're really, you know, like a lot of device companies, because you want to vaporize the stuff to do it healthier. So there's a health angle, and they're pushing that health quality. There's testing companies are popping up because people want to know, like, are there pesticides on this thing, or is it like organic?
Yeah. So I'm married to a cyber geek, so this might get too nerdy for most listeners, but has the blockchain sector kind of moved into this world?
Yes. So I'm very heavy into the blockchain.
Dude, everyone is. I get a million emails about blockchain.
We should definitely do it. So
explain someone explain blockchain.
Okay, so blockchain, real simple. Okay, so if I have a YouTube video on my computer, okay, and you're like, Sumeet, send me that YouTube video, so I'll send it to you, and you're hoping that I delete the YouTube video on my computer, so that's a credit and a debit. That's how the credit debit system works, right? You know, like if I'm going to send you $5 from my Bank of America or Chase, then that's going to be subtracted from my account. It's going to be added. That's called single entry or double entry accounting, right? And you know what the blockchain solves is sending value. How do you send value remotely, right? So like if you're using money, yeah, you could use your Venmo someone, but then like what's happening on the back end, that the bank is clearing your stuff, and then, you know, then it's going to take 3 to 5 days to wire money across the world. I mean, we live in 2018. So what the blockchain solves inherently is it's a cryptographic network that allows you to, there's a public ledger, allows you to send value across that network. And not only is there a double entry going on, it's like hundreds of entries, because multiple computers are verifying that transaction. And I would love to raise my hands right now and explain this with my hands, but I'm not.
Keep those hands down.
I'm not. But essentially, it's the exchange of value. Now, can it only be money? No, it could be anything. It could be exchange of solar energy. Your house produces more solar energy. You're selling it on the free market. So that's a great way to exchange value. Ripple is a humongous company that's solving global payments, right? So how does marijuana get into the blockchain?
I mean, it seems pretty obvious, since the traditional banking system is.
Well, they're in fear mode right now, to be quite honest with you. They're in humongous fear mode. So, you know, what's going on with the marijuana industry, there's a coin out there called Dash. Very heavily, I read the white paper, and what I can say is they're trying to solve the whole marijuana payments problem, because it's a privatized coin, but it's on the blockchain, and I'm really looking to help the dispensaries or that world get their financial payments squared away. That's one thing I want to tap into, because it's just about getting their Dash payment system, which you can go on coinpayments.net and install a merchant account for free on your website and start collecting Dash right now if you wanted to.
Can you also track like the seed to sale itself, like the product itself? Would you be able to track it?
I believe Dash has partners within the marijuana industry here in California, from what I understand, payment processors. So they're partnering with them. So I'm sure they have some kind of a solution coming up. But I mean, Dash is one of a couple of different, you know, so the blockchain, for example, if I'm going to send you value, there's something called a smart contract. So if this happens, then that will happen, then you'll receive the value. So you can say if the quality of this thing is correct, then you check it off. And if this is correct, so in the marijuana industry, there's going to be a lot of checks and balances from seed to sale. So when all of those checks and balances cross off, that's when the value can transfer along that supply chain. That's where the blockchain can make sure that everybody is following the rules, because it'll only transfer if you follow the rules.
But to get a Dash coin, you would have to pay real money, right? Like you would have to...
You have to transfer. You have to go to a crypto exchange, transfer your USD into Bitcoin.
Got it.
Or Ethereum, and then you can use those blockchain values to transfer it into maybe other exchanges where Dash will be available to purchase, right?
Okay.
That's the standard procedure. If you went to a marijuana dispensary, my take in the future is, you know, since you'll all have Bitcoin or Ethereum on your wallet or your phone, and they're doing this in China already. They're already 10 years ahead of us. They use the blockchain out there already, right? With WeChat. And so it's just a QR code. You just scan it, boom, transfer value. And
a lot of scary things going on with that, though. They've plugged that into people's financial scores. So you can track
Oh,
it
yeah.
all the time. Like they're evaluating citizens based
They're
on
evaluating
like, really
citizens
creepy
on
stuff.
social stuff. They
Yeah.
they have great cameras where if you're crossing the street, they'll take a picture of you and shame you across the street. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff happening out there.
Okay, I think
No.
we're getting into the
Okay,
weeds
okay.
here. See what I did there?
Let me come back then. So you mentioned that there were certain trends in the industry, right? That you
Yes.
noticed. What types of professionals have you noticed? We've sort of been probing basically everybody who comes in here on this question of like, are you an activist? Are you a business professional? Do you see people from certain types of backgrounds coming into your your events?
I see a lot of investors. A lot of investors are coming in because at the end of the day, any idea will exist through the value of investment, right? And these ideas require a lot of investment. So I see a war going on out there with I know a guy out there who knows a company that has 5 of the manufacturing licenses here in San Diego, right?
Whoa.
So that's important because if you have a license, then you could produce. You're the producer. You're the creator. So I see a lot of like the licenses being handed out right now. Like
Yeah.
it's really in the beginning stages, but there's a lot of fight over who gets what and how can I claim my ticket.
You need a lot of money to get that. Too,
Yeah,
so
you need a lot of money and a lot of connections. So this
Yeah.
is why you got to go to these events like meetups.com. So many marijuana meetups or any kind of meetup you want. So that's kind of also where our idea, the CC Club stemmed off. We're like, we just want to be a nice conduit of that, like a high quality conduit of that. So people are doing business and people want to meet other people. So we're just trying to help that, facilitate that. We're the catalyst, so to say.
Yeah.
For that.
So, what's up with the magicians?
Like it was a great idea. I mean,
So just to be clear for our listeners, in the kind of rollout of this new company, it was like a one line. It was like, and there will also be really highly skilled magicians at this. And I'm like, whoa.
Well, if you think about it, you're at an amazing dinner. You're having some of the top quality wines. The food is amazing. You're feeling good.
You're tripping out.
Maybe you're doing a little bit of that, but you're in such in a good mood. And then the magician there. I mean, what
Gotta
better
have the
play? You
magician.
got to have the magician. You got to have some magic, Like, I love David Copperfield, right? I used to watch his special all the time.
All right.
So,
all right.
and maybe we might have something else later on, but for now, this was a gentleman in our network. I don't want to butcher his name, but I know his first name is Ben, and he's also a som as well. So he's not just a magician, but he can converse with people. He has that ability to talk to people. So it's good. We need that.
So you talk to a lot of people, obviously, in your role. Can you give us any sense of what the rest of the year is going to look like? We've been hearing from a lot of people that the supply is a big question. They're going to be tougher labeling and testing standards that go into place in the San Diego region. Do you have any insight into what the next couple of months might look like for the legal, like the retailers especially?
So I've been doing my own research, just doing it online, just always trying to keep tabs on the industry. My prediction, my hypothesis is because everything is getting legalized, a lot of the dispensaries and people that you see on Weed Maps, so that's a first indicator, are going to disappear, right? So a lot of people are just doing them out of their own apartments or doing them out of different places. There's going to be regulation on supply of like what you can buy and quality, right? Because now that everything's recreational, anybody can just sell. You don't even need a card anymore, right? So there's going to be on that end of the stick they're going to clamp down. And then I think the rest is just going to fall into line because all the people that are playing within the industry know that you have to do it legally. So a lot of the bad actors are going to be weeded out, but they might even just be converted into like working for the big company. When tobacco companies came about, it's like, I'm going to go work for Marlboro. I'm not just going to do it at Uncle Joe's Tobacco House anymore, right? So
yeah, people didn't just wake up on January 1st and go, I'm an expert in cannabis all of a sudden.
Right,
where did these guys come from? A lot of them.
Right.
It makes sense.
Right.
All right. Well, Sumeet Harish from the Culinary Cannaseur
Cannaseur Club.
Cannaseur Club. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.